Hello, friend. I want to tell you about the Ford Focus car. Petrol or diesel? The share of cars with petrol engines has clearly increased. The Ford Focus dominated as a diesel a few years ago, but this is slowly coming to an end. For a simple reason, although the diesels used in this model are generally good, at some point it is not worth repairing them. The costs are too high in relation to the value of the vehicle. That is why the diesel versions end up in scrap or in the East. However, this is not a big advantage. If we count only petrol cars, subtracting gas cars, the advantage is still on the diesel side. For years, users of petrol versions have been warned about the potential disastrous effects of installing LPG in the Focus 2, and to a large extent, rightly so. However, in this article I will explain why, despite this, it is worth driving on gas, even in the Focus. What petrol engines were offered in the Ford Focus 2? So let's focus on petrol engines. The range of units is quite extensive, and everyone will find something for themselves. Here is the full offer that the manufacturer had in the years 2004 to 2010. 1.4, 80 horsepower, developed in conjunction with Yamaha, but a bit too weak for a compact. It will do well in the city. The unit does not encourage dynamic driving, nor does it burn significantly less fuel than the larger 1.6. Users report average fuel consumption of 7.5 L, 100 kilometers. 1.6, 100 or 115 horsepower. Like the smaller 1.4, this engine was also developed in cooperation with Yamaha. Optimal for a car of this size in terms of both dynamics and fuel consumption. The more powerful version is marked as TI VCT, which means it has variable valve timing. It is no wonder that it is the most popular petrol engine. Fuel consumption is around 8.0 minus 8.5 L, 100 kilometers. Only the 100 horsepower version could be equipped with an automatic. 1.8, 125 horsepower. This is an engine with a different design than the smaller ones, originally developed by Mazda and modernized by Ford. It is clearly more dynamic even than the 115 horsepower 1.6 version. Praised for its performance, high durability, and reliability compared to the already successful smaller engine. The fuel consumption of this version is similar to 1.6. 2.0, 145 horsepower. A design similar to 1.8 also comes from Mazda, which successfully powered the larger Mondeo, including the third generation of the model. The dynamics of the version with a manual transmission place it at the level of a so-called warm hatch. Fuel consumption at the level of 8.5 minus 9.0 L, 100 kilometers. A 4-speed automatic was also an option. Which petrol engine is the best? In my opinion, the best choice at the moment is the 1.8 unit. It was also widely used in larger models, including the Mondeo, so the availability of spare parts is excellent. In addition, it is the most reliable design. The chain-driven timing practically never fails. You can say that about every area. Although you will read in many guides that this is not a good engine for installing LPG, this is only partly true. I only advise against buying a car with an already installed installation if it shows any defects. This engine turns out to be the best for this purpose, apart from the almost armored 5-cylinder 2.5 L from the Focus ST. All you need to do is install the right installation and adjust it properly. Here you should only remember that this engine has a specific operating strategy, i.e. using petrol injections and not only in the initial phase of warming up the catalytic converter. Therefore, it requires more attention when adjusting the installation after installation. If all precautions are taken and proper servicing is maintained, this engine will also serve for a long time on gas. Interestingly, it was this one that was offered with factory LPG, although it differed in reinforced valve seats and a cylinder head. The 1.8 unit provides a good compromise between fuel consumption and dynamics. Unfortunately, it was not offered with an automatic gearbox. In second place is the 2.0 variant. This engine is very similar in design to the 1.8 in terms of timing drive, but also reliability, although fuel pump or ignition coil failures are more common. It is also not generally recommended to install LPG, but if you follow the rules mentioned above, there will be no problem with it. It can be assumed that the 2-liter unit will give the best driving experience on LPG because fuel consumption will no longer be as important. The 1.6 engine is a cheap optimum. It does not impress with dynamics, but it will not ruin fuel consumption either. When using this engine economically, you can get down to very good values. On the other hand, even using full performance will not cause excessive fuel consumption. It will, however, result in excessive oil consumption. Minor faults occur more often than in larger engines. These include, among others, damage to the crankshaft position sensor and lambda probe, ignition coil failures, damage to the wheels responsible for variable valve timing. In addition, there is the timing belt, which should be replaced periodically, along with the accessory belt. The issue of LPG installations is also slightly different. In fact, such a fuel system should not be installed due to the delicate head, but appropriate solutions have already been found. You can use valve seat lubrication or, to protect valves and valve seats, we have prepared a functionality that is present in our Q generation controllers. Stag brand, editor's note. It is a petrol share map. The controllers allow for dosing petrol at higher engine speeds, which significantly affects the protection of valve seats. In addition, it is recommended to check valve clearances at intervals recommended by the engine manufacturer. We are left with a small 1.4 engine, which technically resembles a larger 1.6. In principle, this is a good unit, but it can only be recommended in 2 cases. The first is the very good technical condition of the car. The second is the lack of greater requirements regarding dynamics, e.g., the car is mainly for the city. If you intend to drive such a car for at least 30 kilometers, it is worth installing LPG immediately after purchase. Duratec or Z-Tech in the Focus 2. Many people are looking for an answer to the question of which petrol engines are Z-Tech SE and which are Duratec HE. There is a lot of confusion about this, and information can be found in different places. Even in parts databases. I will explain why. The 1.4 and 1.6 petrol engines are called Duratec, but they are really Z-Tech SE engines, a development of the previous design. It is therefore correct to call them both Z-Tech and Duratec. The 1.8 and 2.0 engines, on the other hand, are technically different designs compared to their predecessors with the Z-Tech designation, which is why they fully deserve the Duratec name. The difference between the 1.4 over 1.6 and 1.8 units is that the smaller ones bear the Duratec designation solely for marketing reasons, to unify the names. In reality, only the larger ones belong to the Duratec family. What about the Focus ST and RS? The Ford Focus ST will of course be a significantly more expensive car to run than the regular versions, but the engine is such a good design that you shouldn't be afraid of it. It also works great on LPG, and there's no reason to give up cheaper fuel because of the ST designation, especially since the ST model, unlike the RS, has no collector's value, and there's no indication that it ever will. The Ford Focus RS is a completely different story. The car has been modified in many areas, so it is a much more expensive car, both in service and repairs. Its engine, although a modified design from the ST, is very different. Technically, it is also possible to install a gas installation here, but this may significantly reduce its market value. What to look out for when deciding to buy a Ford Focus 2? First of all, the condition of the bodywork, because this model, like other Fords, has problems with corrosion. Many of the cheapest examples are low-priced for this very reason. First of all, you need to check the floor, then of course the sheet metal. If the car shows signs of a serious collision or accident, it is not worth buying. There may be problems with maintaining the geometry, and with the multi-link rear suspension, this may cause the car to drive badly. Meanwhile, it is the driving characteristics that are one of the greatest advantages. Driving the Focus 2 is pure pleasure. Maintaining the suspension in good condition is not expensive, and replacing a complete set of wishbones once every 100 kilometers will not break the bank. The car demonstrates high overall durability apart from the bodywork. It is easy to repair, and spare parts are widely available and cheap. Beware of American cars, because there is no shortage of them. It is worth taking a closer look at them, because their history is often unknown. They are also sometimes specifically equipped, which does not have to be a disadvantage. Thanks for listening to me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and rate my video. If you know of any problems with this car that I haven't mentioned, be sure to write about them in the comments.